So hello everyone. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to use Godot engine. All right. So what is Godot or Godot or however you want to pronounce it? There's a lot of ways to. I say Godot personally. So Godot is a game engine that can be used to make both 2D and 3D games. Godot is open source, which means it's free, most importantly, and it can be freely modified and redistributed with a couple of terms, but that's not important right now. And it's always being improved by its community. So as of now, we're at Godot 4.3, which has Godot 4 in general just introduced a lot of improved stuff for 3D games. But today we're going to be doing 2D, so it doesn't really matter. So what are Godot's features? Godot's features are it has its own programming language, GDScript, which is very similar to Python. Like it's very similar to Python. If you know Python, you pretty much know GDScript. Most importantly to know, it's dynamically typed. So what that means is whenever you make a variable, you don't have to say you can, but you don't have to say what variable it is. So if you make like var health, you could just put var health. You don't need to put var int health or int health. You can do it, but I'll explain why it might be better, but you don't have to do it. Along with that, the IDE is built into the engine. So you don't need to download VS Code or what's the other one? Visual Studio Code. Like you have to do with like Unity or Unreal. It's just in the engine, you just download Godot and you can start working. Godot has a similar project structure to Unity. So if you went to the last Unity workshop, you might know what I'm talking about. So game objects and components are equivalent to nodes, which are, the different parts of the node tree. I'll get to that. Prefabs and game scenes are equal to just scenes with just one. Events are equal to equivalent to signals. We'll get to that. Tags are equivalent to groups, and scriptable objects are equivalent to resources. All right. So what are you going to learn today? Today you're going to learn how to make and import a project, how to navigate Godot's interface, how to set up a project for a 2D pixel game, how to make top-down 2D pixel movement and attacking, using sprite sheet animations, making a basic enemy. Technically, you could call it AI. It's not really AI. Using signals and groups. And if we have time, we'll make a health UI and we'll make a tile map. So what do you need to get started? These are two things that you should have on your computer already. If you don't, that's fine. But ideally, you should have that downloaded already. So you need Godot 4.3 specifically. That's the version we're using right now. And the starter project that contains required assets. You should have downloaded that from the announcement. That's more so we could just kind of skip some steps that are a little tedious. I'm going to show you how to do those things, but you'll see what I mean when I show you. So is everyone ready to start? So this is what you'll see when you first open Godot engine, except this. Ignore that. It'll just be a blank page for you if you haven't made any projects. So to create a project, what you'll do is you'll press create. You'll put in the name that you want and the folder you want and the render. For now, doesn't really matter, though on a laptop, I'd recommend doing compatibility just because sometimes forward can be a little slow. But we're not going to do that right now. I'm just showing you guys how to do it whenever you guys make your own project. What we are going to do right now is we're going to click import because we want to import the project that we gave to you already with it already has some of the assets and some some pre-done nodes. So you're just going to navigate to where you download that. I downloaded that in downloads. Okay. Everything good? Okay. I don't know. Do you guys want me to say the whole thing again, or does it really matter? No? Okay. Well, let me click cancel. Okay. Okay, bottom line, does everyone have Godot open? That includes also everyone on Discord.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to click import, and then you're going to navigate to where on your computer you downloaded the project. So personally for me, I put it in downloads, yes. So once you navigate to that folder, you're going to see something that says project.godot. Does everyone see that? All right, you're going to click that and click open. It should say valid project found at path. So what that means is that it recognizes that path as a Godot project. mostly because it has project.godot, obviously. But it also count the folder that project.godot is in as the project folder, so it'll have all the assets and stuff. So once you've done that, you're going to click import and edit. Just give it a second. All right. So now we are here. 1 second. Okay. So before we start anything, we need to set up our project so it works functionally as a pixel game. Because if we just leave everything as is, I won't show it to you here, but you'll see it if you try it. All your pixel assets will come out really blurry and ugly. And that's because of some of the default project settings that Godot has. So what you're going to do, I did too fast. You're going to click project in the top bar. And then you're going to click project settings. So just click that. I'll maximize it for you. So let's see. Wait. Okay, never mind. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to rendering, textures, and you're going to change the default texture filter to nearest. So there's some math involved in this. I don't really know what it is. But it makes it so that your pixel art will be nice and crisp and clean instead of all blurry and ugly. Does everyone have that? All right. Next, you're going to go to display is at the top. So display and then window. So what this does, these settings do, is change how the window pops up when you play the game. So this is not totally necessary, but it's just good practice to set this up early. Is you're going to set the window width to viewport width to 480 and the height to 270. And you might be saying those are really small numbers. Why are they so small? That's because we're using pixel art and the images are just really small. So if you just leave it as is, all your assets are just going to be really small. And we don't want that. Along with this, we're going to click in stretch mode. We're going to change it to disabled. Do I remember what this does? Well, if you don't remember what it does, you can hover over it and it'll show what it says in documentation, which is very nice. So
changing it from disabled to viewport?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You change it to that. And then lastly, you're actually going to click advanced settings because since we've set the window size to being so small, the window size is going to be really small. So what we want to do is we want to scroll to window width override and window height override. Does everyone see that? If you don't see it, make sure you click advanced settings. And you're going to want to change this to your monitor size. I'm just going to change it to 1920 by 1080. So what this is going to do is it's going to kind of blow up the image so it fills up your whole screen instead of just being really small. All right, does everyone have all that? All right. And what I meant to do before that is to show you the editor, but that's my bad. So this is the Godot editor. So it has a few different tabs that you should get to know. The most important one, I would say, is the scene tab. So this is your node tree. So when you create a node, this is what it adds it to. So it creates a tree of different nodes. So you have a root node, which is the first node in a hierarchy. And then the nodes you add after it are called children. So we're going to create one real quick right now. So we're going to create one called world. This is going to be the root node, the main node that your game is going to inhabit. So what you're going to click is 2D scene. And then you can double click it to change the name. So I'm just going to change this to world. Everyone have that? I'll give you a second. I think that was a yes. Okay. Next, I'm just going to show you the rest of the panels. Next is the file system. So this contains all your assets, both actual image assets, like the ones we have already, and scene assets, like these ones that we've pre-made for you, and also scripts too. This is the output window. This has a few different tabs. We'll check out a couple of them, not all of them, but one important one is output. So if you, in your code, call something to print, this is where it'll print. So this prints, print statements. It also prints any errors that you might have, like runtime errors. And as you can see, you can toggle these to hide. So if you don't want to see all that, you can just click that. Next is inspector. So what inspector is, it's kind of like the properties of all your nodes. So for world, it inherits from node 2D, so it has stuff like transform, like position, rotation, scale, and stuff like that. We're all on the same page? Yeah? Okay. Next is nodes. We'll get to all this, but it might be a little confusing. But this is where you find signals, and this is where you find groups. We'll get to all this. It's not super important right now. But what we're gonna do next is we're gonna go back to project settings. I like to do this early. You don't technically have to do this right now. Anyway. Yeah, go ahead and change that real quick. We can.
When someone was talking earlier, he was so quiet. All of a sudden,
Anyway, you know what? Actually, we'll do this later. Yeah, we'll do this when we need that. All right. Or yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. So what instead you're gonna do is you're going to go to yes, save. Make sure you save the world scene. You can save it to scenes. Technically, you could just save it wherever, but it's nice to keep your projects organized, or else it's just gonna be like you have like scripts and scenes and assets all in the same folder, so it's better to just keep them separate. All right. So you're gonna save that, and then in your scenes folder, you should also find something called player.tscn. So the reason we pre-made would be a lot easier with the mouse. Okay, hold on. The reason we pre-made your player is because we're gonna have a few animations, and I don't want to bore you with just making like walk front, walk back, walk side, attack front. It's just gonna be a waste of time. But I will show you how to do one. But we'll get to that. So what do you have next? First, we're gonna add some children to this node that will be relevant now or later. So to add a child, you can either click this plus, or you can right click and click child node, or you can do Control A if you feel fine doing that. So this is the node search. So there's a lot of nodes that Godot has for many different purposes, but what we need right now is collision, shape. Make sure you click shape, not polygon. Polygon is something different. Collision, shape, 2D, and then just click create. So this is a collision shape node. So what this does is it makes it so your object can have collisions, obviously. So you might see that before we had a little error triangle on player, but we don't have that anymore. It moved to collision shape. This is because the player is something called a character body 2D. We'll expand on what that is when we get to slime, or the enemy, which is a slime. But it's essentially an object that can move, basically. An object that can move and has physics. And this is where the physics come in. This is the collision shape. So what we're going to do to give it a shape is, that's why it has an error, because it doesn't have a shape. We're going to click collision shape. We're going to click circle shape. And then you're going to click it to expand so you can see the properties of that. And then type in 20. It's not a perfect fit. You can your like head and feet are kind of peeking out, but it's fine for now. You can, if you really want, you can make it a capsule so it fits a little better. I'm just going to keep it a circle. Okay, next. So now we're going to put a script to change the shape. You just
oh, change the shape. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I was a bit lost. To be on there, I'm not.
So you're going to click the player node. You're going to right click. And then add click child node. Wait, whatever. And then you're going to type in collision shape 2D. Make sure you do collision shape, not collision polygon. And then you're going to click create. And then in shape, in the inspector tab, you're going to click where it says empty. Add circle shape 2D. Expand it. And then change the radius to 20. that good?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me delete this extra one. Oh, I don't have a delete key. Oopsie. There we go. Okay. So now if we just run it, well, let's go to world first because so the Godot has something called a main scene. So what that is essentially the scene that runs when you press play. So we want to make sure that we open world, our world tab, and then click play. Otherwise, it's going to set the player as the main scene. So we're going to select current. Give it a second. It's a little slow. And oh, we didn't add player. Yeah, okay. Make sure you add player. Don't forget. Oh, no, don't open player. Sorry, I'm used to using this with a mouse. It's a little hard to do with the trackpad. Okay, there we go. So make sure you add click and drag player.tscn into your world. Otherwise, it won't exist. Let me delete that.
Jump in front of like,
Just someone say something. Okay. Everyone got that? So now if you click play, you'll see our player kind of. Oh, thank you. Thank God. Yeah, I do. Okay, so now you can see that we have a player. But if we press anything, it doesn't do anything. That's because we don't have any code. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our player scene. Maybe this closer. Oh. We're going to go to our player scene, and then if you see here, whatever. If you see here, there's a little plus script. You're going to see this little plus script thing. You're going to click it. Make sure you have player selected. You're going to click that. And then, okay. You're going to uncheck this part. So you're going to see this scene when you make a script, or this window. You're going to need to make a script. So first we want to uncheck character body, basic movement. That's because that character body is more for like platformers, and we're not making a platformer. So we're making like a top-down thing. So you're gonna want to uncheck that, and then you're going to change your path. Right now it defaults to scenes for some reason. I don't know why it does that. But you're gonna go back and change that to scripts. Just because it just keeps everything more organized. You don't have to do that, but I like doing that. And whoopsie, I like to capitalize scripts. Again, you don't have to do that, but for me, I like camel case. I don't know. And then you're gonna click open. Does everyone have that?
Yep.
Okay. And then you're gonna click create. So let me move all this out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. All right. So now we have a player script. So the only thing you'll see on top is extends character body. So what that means is it's going to get all the variables, all the methods, all stuff like that from character body 2D. So stuff like getting the velocity, stuff that has to do with like physics, maybe gravity, I don't remember. But yeah, so make sure that's there if it's not. So first we want to add some onReady variables. So what is an onReady variable? An onReady variable is a type of variable that checks if what it's asking for is already loaded into the game. So this prevents the variable from trying to get a sorry, I'm blanking. It prevents the variable from trying to access something that hasn't been loaded yet. So in order to do that, you're gonna put at. This is important. Make sure you put the at on ready. So that's going to make that variable an onReady variable. And the reason that we use onReady variables is to ask for things that are in the node tree. So if we just put sprite 2D, it's not going to know that it exists yet because this variable is going to be run at ready, but the sprite 2D might not be ready. So we want to check if sprite 2D is ready. So we're going to make this onReady var sprite. All right. And then this is what I was talking about when I was talking about the dynamically typed-ness of GDScript. So technically you don't have to do this, but I like to, but you can specify what type your variable is going to be. I've heard this helps with performance, but you don't have to do it. I just like doing that, and also for me it helps like with just knowing what something is already supposed to be. And then you're just going to put equals, and then now you're going to call the node from the tree. So the script, being at the root, it can ask for anything that's a child of it. So in order to ask for the sprite 2D, we're going to put $sign sprite 2D. So you can see it's green, which means that it recognizes that there's a matching child of the player node. Everyone got that? Okay. So now we're going to add, how many more? We're going to add one more. We're going to add one for the animation player. This won't be relevant immediately, but it's just good to have. So we're going to put onReady var animation, how do I spell it? Player, animation player equals $sign animation player. Oh. If you could also, if you want to just type something a little more quickly, if you start typing it, it'll start to like autofill based on like, the context of it. You could just press enter and it automatically fills. That like speeds up everything so much, just so much. Okay. And then we're going to add a couple more variables. So next is something called an export variable. So an export variable is a variable that allows you to edit its value in the inspector. So we're going to make that for speed. So we're going to put again, export var speed, and then we want this to be an int. So we're going to do int equals what did I just put 100. You can modify that in the inspector for player. So without it, it'll just not be there. So let me demonstrate that. So if I just delete that and Control S, it's gone. But if we want to be able to edit that just on the fly instead of having to go into the script, we could just put export. We save again, and there it is. So if we really want, we could change this to like 150 or 1, but I'm just going to leave it for 100 now, the default value. All right. Now we're going to add a couple of variables related to, one variable related to our movement. So you don't need to know like vector math to use Godot, but we will be using it. So we're going to make something called var input vector vector2 equals vector2 dot 0. So a vector 2 is essentially, it's a two-dimensional vector essentially. So it has an x and has a y. It has two of those separate values. And vector 2.0 is essentially just 0, 0. You could put vector 2 equals 0, 0, but it's nice that it's provided. Just, I don't know. I like it. Lastly, we won't be using this for a while, but just put it anyway, is var health int equals 3. So that's just health. Again, we won't get to that in a minute, but whatever. All right. So before we start putting movement code, we want to actually have an ability to do movement. So we're going to go back to project settings, and then we're going to click the next tab. Okay. The next tab it says next tab. This is input map. So this is where you can put the different inputs for different actions in your game. So we want to do movement actions. So we can put up, down. You go to, let me close it. You go to project settings, input map. And then you're going to put up, down, left, and right. All right. Okay. Now we're going to assign keyboard actions to these input actions because we just put them in now. They're not going to have an assigned input. So what we're going to do is we're going to click this plus sign. add event, and then you're gonna press the key that you want to match to this event. So for up, I like WASD, but you could also do the arrow keys. So I'm gonna put W, and then press OK. If you want, this is a nice thing about input actions, is that it allows you to have multiple different keybinds to the same action. So let's say we also want to do the arrow keys. We could also put up arrow. And then both of these will activate the input action. So I'm just going to do the rest of these. So down would be S. And then down could also be the down key. Left could be A. Could also be the left key. And then right can be D. And that could also be the right key. I did that a little fast. Does everyone have that? You could just do WSD or arrow keys. You don't have to do both of them. I just did that for like demonstrating. So, okay. Everyone got that? Everyone good?
Yep.
All right. So now we're going to click close. So now we have input actions. So what do we do with those? We want to add some basic movement code. There are a few different ways to do this, especially in 2D. You could do like if input action left, input action right. You could do that. But there's a better way, which I'm going to show you. You're going to do func, FUNC, underscore, physics, underscore, process, colon, or not colon, parentheses, delta, and then colon at the end. So what is this? This is physics process. So this is one of the two process functions. These essentially just run every single frame. There's some differences between this function and then another one called process, which that we'll use at some point. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it has to do with physics. It's something with more like rigid body physics, but we won't get to that. Yeah. So does everyone have that? Yeah? Okay. So now we're going to. Okay. I usually put this in my games. It's not totally necessary. It's just more so a quality of life thing for me. I like to put if input, capital input, dot is action just pressed. Now we're going to put parentheses, UI underscore cancel. So UI underscore cancel is a built-in input action that Godot has, which is just your escape key. And then I put this as get underscore tree. So this gets like the base scene tree dot quit. So I have this just so I can easily quit out of my game when I'm testing stuff. It's not necessary, but it's just nice to have. Does everyone have that? So if I just click play, I don't have to go up here to press this. I could just escape and it's closed. All right. So now we're going to get to the movement. All right. So what we want to do is we want to basically assign the direction that we're moving to our input vector based on our keyboard movement. So we're going to put input underscore vector dot x. So this is the left to right movement. And then equals input dot get action strength parentheses and then quotation mark right. So that essentially gets the strength of how much right we're pressing. And then we're going to put minus the same thing, input dot get action strength. And then instead we're going to put you're going to close output. That's a good idea. Quotation marks, I forgot what they're called, left. There we go. So what this essentially does is it gets a input vector value. This will be either 0 or 1, I believe. And it'll essentially, I don't know the exact math, but it basically just gets either a 0 if no left or right input is being done, a -1 if you're going left, and a 1 if you're going right. Does everyone have that? Can I make this bigger? I can. There we go. Now you can see everything. Feel free to copy that. All right. Now we're going to do the same thing for the y-axis. So this is like up and down. So we're going to do input underscore vector dot y equals input dot get action strength parenthesis. Oh my god, I keep saying parentheses. Quotation mark. What did I put? Down minus input dot get action strength up. So this essentially does the same thing, but on the y-axis. Everyone have this? We all good? All right. So now we want to apply this input vector to our velocity. So velocity is essentially just direction times speed. And input vector is our direction, because if we're going, let's say we're going like kind of diagonal, then we would be diagonal like this way. We would have 1 in our input vector dot y and 1 in input vector dot x. So how we're going to do that is we're going to type in velocity. Like I said, velocity is a pre-built value in character body 2D, so you don't need to like instantiate this. Equals input underscore vector times our speed. Everyone have that? So if we try to run the game now, even though we've put in this movement code, nothing's happening. That's because in physics process, you need to call a special function, which essentially just tells your character to move with the velocity that it has. So we're going to type move underscore and underscore slide, and then parentheses because it's a method. Everyone have that? All right. So if we press play, I'll show it in a second. I just want to show something. Now we can move. Nice. However, there's one problem. If we try to do what I said and go in 2 different directions, we're suddenly moving faster. So this is our regular movement, and this is our diagonal movement. That's because we're essentially applying 2 input vectors into, I don't remember the exact math, but since we're going in 2 different directions, it essentially does our movement twice. So to fix that, above our velocity math, we're going to do input vector equals input vector dot normalized. So what this does is essentially just normalizes a value so that it'll make sure that we aren't essentially going in 2 directions at once and therefore doing 2 speeds at once. Everyone got this? So if we try to run it now, now we won't go faster if we're going diagonally. Nice. All right. Ooh, okay. So we've already added a player to world. So now we want to get out of our script. So let me do that.
Well, actually, it was just a moment. I'm having a lot of errors on my end. Let me double check this one.
What do the errors say?
Yeah, it keeps saying unexpected identifier in class body.
For what function or method or whatever?
It says line 14, the input vector dot x, all that, but also it is highlighting all the other ones after that.
Did you make sure that you instantiated input vector?
What does that mean?
Did you put var input vector colon vector 2 equals vector 2 0?
I did.
Okay. If you'd like, I can just, we're a little short on time. I can just copy and paste this in like general or something, right? Yeah. Whatever. Okay. I can't here. Here, I'll just copy and paste it. Because I can't quite help everyone, unfortunately. Okay. There we go. Yeah, let me see. Oh my goodness. Close parentheses. Okay, I'll just copy and paste this. Because I kind of have to get moving. All right. So now we're going to do some quick animation. So, like I said, we already have an animation player made. Why is this? Oh, let me ignore that. So let me go to 2D. So this is the animation player. So this, it plays animations. So I already have a few animations preset. This is because, like I said, I don't want to bore you with just, let's make this animation, let's make this one, and let's make this one. I'm just going to show you how to make one. So you're going to press animation, new, and then you're going to name this idle underscore front. We want to name these specifically because the way that we have the animation player set up in the code, well, the way we're going to have it, uses the name. So we want to make sure that we name this very specifically. And we're going to press OK. Okay. So now we have nothing. We don't have any animation playing. So what we're going to do is we're going to click Add Track, Property Track, and then we're going to click Player. Wait, no, sorry. We're going to click Sprite 2D. My bad. And then we're going to click OK. So now we want to choose what property to animate. So what we want to animate is our frame. We already have the sprite set up so that it cuts the image into individual frames. I wish I could show you that, but it kind of forced me to just have that already ready to have the animations ready. So we're just going to click frame. Everyone see that? And we're going to press open. So now we're able to animate our frame. So let me make this a little bigger. So let's kind of look around the animation player for a second. First, we want to change our length. So right now, our animation length is 1 second. It doesn't need to be that long to be an idle animation. So we're going to click this value. It's under like this little onion icon. And we're going to type in 0.3 because we only want our animation to be 0.3 seconds long. And then see this right here? This is like the view slider. We can kind of drag this to the right. So we see a little bit more. Everyone got that? So now we're going to add frames. So we're going to right click this track where it says frame, click insert key, and that essentially just puts a keyframe of each animation. So we're going to add 2 more. So one right at the middle, like around here, right click, insert key, and then 1 more at the end, right click, insert key. Looks a little uneven. Did I do that right? I think it's fine. Either way. Okay. Okay, yeah. So, but if we go back here and we play, nothing's happening. That's because we also need to change the individual frame value for each frame. That's getting on my nerves. Hold on. There we go. Okay. So we want to set time, or not time, we want to set value for each individual frame. So for the first one, we're just going to leave it as 0 because, you know, computer science, you got to start from 0. Everyone knows that. I hope you do. And then the next one, you want to set the value to 1. So this is going to essentially make this frame 0, this frame 1. So if you kind of drag through, you can see the frame is changing. And then finally, in the last one, we want to change value to 2. Does everyone have that? That might have been a little confusing. I'm going to assume so. So if we play it from the beginning, we have a very short animation. However, we want this to loop so that when we're idle, it just constantly plays that idle animation. So next to this little, or below this little pin icon, we're gonna see this like little arrows, and you're gonna click that twice. The reason we want to click this twice is that we want this to be a ping pong animation. So on a normal loop, actually let me demonstrate. On a normal loop, it'll just loop it normally. So it'll go to the end and then go back to the front. But these animations were specifically made so that you can use a ping pong animation. So we're gonna click it twice again. So it has this little icon. I'm not sure what that is. So then now it goes to the end and then it ping pongs back. So it goes like forward, backward, forward, backward. So as you can see, it looks a little bit better. Let me put this down. See, the animation looks a little bit better. So it looks more of there's like a wagging motion. Does everyone have that? Yeah? Okay. So we're done with animations because like I said, we already have all these pre-made. At least you should. So now we're gonna implement those animations into our game. So if you play right now, you can see there's no animation, even though we already made them. That's because we actually need to call the animation player in our code to play it. So I will be the first to say that this implementation is not the best. There's a lot of different ways that you can make a character animate, like animation trees, state machines. It's a little bit beyond the scope. It's a little confusing, so I won't do that. Instead, we're gonna essentially concatenate the name of the animation that we want to play based on the conditions of if we're moving and what our direction is. So what we're going to do is first we want to add another variable. So we're going to make a variable that's called var face underscore direction colon string equals equals front, because we want to default our animation to be front facing because we don't want to start the game and the character is looking away from you. Everyone have that? Oh, wait a second. Okay. So now we're going to add a new function. So we're going to go below our physics process. I don't think the order matters in Godot. I could be wrong, but you could just put it below. Func update underscore animation. We're going to leave that as, and we're going to put colon at the end. Everyone have that? Okay, then we're gonna press enter and then that automatically indents, because one thing I forgot to mention is that Godot is very picky about indentation. It's like Python in that way. So you gotta make sure that if you have a function, everything that's in it has to be indented once. Or if there's an if statement like this, it has to be indented again. So we're gonna do update animation. And then like I said, we're gonna wanna concatenate a string to create the animation, the name of our animation. So we're gonna make a blank string. This is going to be a local variable. So if we try to ask for this variable in like physics process, it's not going to work. So we're going to do var anim underscore name. Nope, not anime. Name equals, and we're just going to put one. We can just click it once and it'll do two of them. 2 quotation marks. So this just makes a blank string. Next, we're going to put an if statement. So we're going to do if input underscore vector equals double equals. Remember that, because we don't want to assign input vector to vector 2. We want to make sure it's equal to. So we're going to do input vector vector 2 parentheses 0 1. Does everyone have that? Yeah. There's like, oh, there's like there's a blank quotation marks. So it's just like this, there's no marker here. Yeah. No, it's just quotation marks. Does everyone have this? Okay, then we're going to press enter, make sure it's indented. We're going to do face direction equals, just one equal sign, parentheses, or not, I keep saying parentheses, quotation marks, front. So this is essentially going to say, wait, what's the front? Oh yeah, because my bad. The second one is the Y direction. So that means if our like input vector is facing downwards, we actually want to be facing front. We want to be facing towards the player because if we're walking down, we're going to be looking towards the player. So we're going to set that to front. Everyone got that? Next, we're going to do another condition. So we're going to do elif input underscore vector double equals, not 3, just 2, vector 2, 1, 0. So this is going to check if we're on our side. So our animation's made so that we don't need a separate left and right animation. We just need a side one. So this checks if it's on the side. Am I missing something? I think I might be. 1 second. No, I'm not. So we're going to do face underscore direction equals quotation marks side. 1 second. Along with this, since we just have one animation for the side animation, we want to make sure it's flipped correctly. So if our animation is made so it's facing the right. If we're going left, then we want to flip our animation. But for this one, we don't want to do that. We actually want to set it to false. So if it's already facing the other way, we want to fix it so it's not facing that way. So we're going to type sprite dot flip underscore h equals false. Everyone got that? I'll give you guys a second. All right. So now we want to do the other side. Technically, you could make this like the same. You could like write this differently so that it only does like and vector whatever. I just have it this way. So I'm just gonna do elif input vector equals vector 2. We're gonna do -1 this time. 0 because like I said, -1 corresponds to facing left. And then once again, we're going to do face direction equals side. We're going to do that again. Like I said, probably a better way to do this, but it's fine for now. Right dot flip h equals true this time. Because if we're facing left, we want to flip our sprite from facing right to facing left. Otherwise, we'd be like moving left but facing right. Does this make sense? Okay. And then lastly, we're going to do, I guess you could put else for this, but I want to be more specific just because there's a possibility to have vector 2, 1, 1, -1, stuff like that. We're going to do input vector equals vector 2, 0, -1. We're only going to do these conditions because we could technically have like 8-directional movement, but we also don't have an 8-directional sprite. I very much invite you to improve this. Like, this is not the best way to do this. I'll be the first to say that. Yeah, we'll just do face direction equals, what did I call it? Back. So this is going to check if we're moving up, we want to see our backside. Otherwise, we'd be facing the wrong way, but moving up. I'll leave this on for a second in case you need to write this because this is kind of a lot. I can also paste it. I'll paste it in the chat in a minute. There's a few more things we need to do. We all good? Alrighty. So there's a couple more steps we need to do. First, we want to make sure that we don't start playing this animation, the same animation, while it's already playing. So if we're already moving idle, we don't want to set our animation to idle front again, because we're already moving idle. So without it, we just, every single frame, we try to start at the animation, and we don't want to do that. Otherwise, the animation would just not play. So what we're going to do if animation underscore player dot current animation, because current animation is it's a variable that the animation player has, which just tells you what the current animation is in a string. And then we're going to put does not equal anim name. So you might be like, we don't have that animation name yet set yet. Why are we doing this already? I don't know. No, don't leave. Anyway, I blinked. Well, we're gonna have animation name set for every frame after the first frame. So this will already be set by the time it runs. So we're gonna do animation player underscore player dot play parentheses anim name. So like I said, and then once the game plays, this will be set already. I'm not sure how to explain it very well, but it will. This will work. Did I miss something? I did miss something. That's why. Okay, my bad. So I actually meant to put if input vector double equals vector2 dot 0. So this is basically checking, are we just straight up not moving? So because vector2 dot 0 is just 0, 0. If we're not moving, if we're not putting any input, then it's just our input vector is gonna be 0, 0. And then we're gonna put anim name. This is where the concatenation happens. My bad, I completely missed a step. Is equals idle underscore. Make sure you put the underscore because we have to match how our animations are already named. Otherwise, this won't work. So we're gonna have idle plus face direction. So this is the value that we got from here. So it's essentially saying, are we moving? And what was our last direction already being faced? And then now we're essentially going to do the same thing. Here we just put else because any other vector combination implies that we're being moved. So we could just put else. So we're going to put else anim name equals quotation mark run underscore plus face direction. Did I spell that right? Yeah, I did. So this basically says if we're completely still, set our animation to idle plus what direction we're facing. And if we are moving, then put it to run plus face direction. And then lastly, just check if we're not already playing that animation. Then you can play it. Does everyone have this? I'll paste it in the chat right now because this function is done. All good? I guess so. Let me just do this real quick. Oh. I'm not sure why. Oh, wait, it's because there's underscores. Yeah, ignore the italics. I don't know why it's doing that. Okay. So I'm not going to show you, but if we tried to run it right now, the animations wouldn't play. That's because update animation is just a function. It's never actually being called because there are only a select few functions that are automatically called based on certain conditions. So we want to add this to physics process so it runs every frame. Again, maybe not best practice, but it's fine for now. Maybe if you're just like, making a proof of concept for a game, this would be fine. But if you actually want to like make an honest to God game, don't do this. So we're going to put update underscore animation. So now if we save and press play, we try to move them around, we have animation. So if I stay still, you can see there's a very subtle idle animation. And then we change how our stance is based on like what direction we're moving and also our last direction. So even if I'm moving up and we've switched idle, I'm still facing up because we kind of saved that face direction into our next animation. Does this make sense? It's all good? Yeah? All right. So now, I think we have time. Yeah, we have time to make like a little basic enemy. So we're going to click, but the one thing we want to do, just, to have already, we're going to use this eventually, is we want to make a group for our player. There's a lot of ways to reference a player, like from an enemy. This is how I like to do it. It just makes sense to me. So we're going to go to node. It's next to inspector, node, and then groups. So this used to be a little simpler. Now there's like one extra step. It doesn't matter. So we're going to press plus, and it's going to make a new group. So we want to name this player. This is going to be a group with only one item, which is our player. But we're going to make it global. So that means that any node can reference this. It's kind of like an autoload, like, I don't remember what it's called in Unity, but it's something that every node can access. And then we're going to press OK. So now our player is part of this player group. And we're going to need this when we're doing, like, if we have time to get to, like, attacking. Okay. So now we want to make an enemy. So we're going to make a new scene. We're going to do plus. And then we're going to put other node, because we don't want to make this like a default node. Otherwise, we won't be able to have it move. So we're going to press other node. And then we're going to type character body 2D. So this is the same type of node that our player is. So that means that this enemy can have collision, it can have physics, and it can also move. So we're going to press create. And then now we have an enemy. So let's rename this to slime, because the enemy's a slime. Or you can call it enemy, something like that. Okay. Now you want to add a couple of children to this that we'll need eventually. So we're going to press plus, and then we're going to add a collision shape. So similar to our player. We're going to add a collision shape, empty. We're going to press circle shape 2D. We're going to press expand, and we're going to set its radius to 15. So let me get a little closer. Wait, I have a mouse. What am I doing? Okay, so now we have collision, but we don't have an image. We don't have a texture. So we want to add a animated sprite. Technically, we could also use an animation player like we did with the player, but there's something that we'll do later that you can't do with just a regular animated sprite. But it's not something that we need to do for the slime. So we're just gonna make this an animated sprite. So we're gonna press create. Oopsie. There we go. All right. Now we're going to add some frames to this animation. So in the properties or inspector, we're gonna press animation. And then in this thing that says sprite frames, I'm gonna make it a little bigger. We're gonna click the empty and click new sprite frames. And then we're gonna click it to expand the editor. Everyone got that? Okay, guess so. All right, so now we're gonna make just 2 animations for this. So we want to do a walk up and a walk down. That's it. So we're gonna change this to walk underscore up. Or no, wait, sorry, it's walk front, because we have technically you do walk up, walk down, but I'm gonna name it differently in the code, so it's just to avoid confusion. Walk front. And we're gonna do, let's see, walk underscore back. Everyone got that? All right. So now we're gonna press this little 9x9 grid. Does everyone see that? It's really small. It's right here. It's next to this open folder and these 2 squares. We're gonna click that. And then now we're gonna navigate to where our slime is. So if you have the asset pack, you just put assets, slime.png, open. So now we're in a little separate editor. So what this is the sprite frames editor, so we can kind of choose which frames we want in each animation. First though, you can see these grids are corresponding to each frame in an animation. As you can see, they're not quite correct, so we want to change those. So I've already pre-counted in this lane, there is 16 frames. So we want to set our horizontal value to 16. And then now we want to change our vertical value to 2 because there's only 2 frames vertically. So as you can see, each box corresponds to 1 frame of the animation. So now what do we have selected? We have walk. So since we have walk back selected, but if you have walk front, it might be different. We want to select the frames that correspond to that animation. So if we're doing walk back, we want to do these frames. So we click each frame we want to be part of that animation. Does that make sense? Okay. So we're going to click add 3 frames. So then this automatically creates the animation. There we go. Now we're going to do the same thing for the front. So we're going to do the 9x9 slime.png. And the horizontal and vertical settings should carry over, so you don't need to do that again. And then we want to do the frames before it. So those are the moving forward frames. We're going to click add 3 frames. So we play that. Now we're doing the front facing animation. And you don't have to do this, but you could also, well, no, you probably should do this. You can move the sprite a little bit up if it lets me. Okay, that's because I'm a drag. So you want to make sure you're pressing this arrow. You want to drag this slightly up just so it lines up with the collision. All right. Does all that make sense? That was kind of a lot. All right, you want to save this scene. So we're going to do Control S. We're going to make sure we're in scenes. And we're going to name this capital slime.tscn and hit save. Just so we can save that as a scene. So now we want to add a script to this because if we just put this in our game and run it, it's not going to do anything. So we're going to put a new script like we did with the player. We're going to navigate to our scripts folder. See. Scripts. Put it there. And do capital slime.gd and click create. All right, so now we have a new blank character body 2D. So there are a few ways to do like AI movement in Godot. It's kind of beyond the scope of this. It's something that I think you should learn on your own. So what we're gonna do is just a basic moving up and down. So, 1 second. You want to have some starting variables. First, we just want var start position vector 2. Okay. And then we also want var end position. So again, this is it's what it says on the tin. It's this start and end position. All right. And then like the player, we also want to have an export value for our speed. So we can change it just whenever we want. So we're going to do at export var speed wait, I forgot. Yeah, no, yeah, that was fine. Int equals 50. So we don't want this to move quite as fast as our player. You could make it faster, but that's the benefit of the export value is I could just change it as you want. All right. And we also want to do at export var limit float equals 0.5. So this is something that'll come up in a minute, but it essentially just prevents the character from like reaching its endpoint and like jiggling a bit. I can show you, but it's just to prevent that. And then lastly, we want one more export variable. So we want export var end point. So what this is going to do is this is going to make us able to essentially put a marker 2D, like I put right here, so marker 2D, into our world, which will dictate what point the slime will end at and then reverse back to its original position. So that'll come up in a second. We don't need to put equal to that. Okay. Oh, one more thing. We also want to put on ready var just put sprite. On ready var sprite colon animated sprite. Is that what? Yeah, 2D equals $sign animated sprite 2D. Does everyone have all this? All right. So now we're going to start our movement. So we want to make a ready function. So what a ready function is just a function that gets called whenever the node is brought into the game or loaded into the game. So we want to do func underscore ready parentheses colon. So we want to make sure to have this underscore because then that allows the game to read it as the ready function. So then we're going to do start underscore position equals position. So what this does is it just essentially asks for the current position of the slime and sets that as our start position. And then lastly, we're going to do end underscore position equals end point. So this is the marker 2D that we're going to set in our world. Dot global position. The global part is important because there's global space and there's local space. So that's a whole kind of words. What it essentially means is where this marker 2D is located relative to the world rather than itself. Okay. Next, we're going to make a new function. So we're going to make func change underscore direction. So this will come up in a minute, but this essentially tells the enemy once we reach the endpoint, go backwards towards the start point. So we have like a little looping obstacle, if that makes sense. So we want to do var temp end because we want, if you've ever tried to like switch to arrays, we want to make a temp end because if we just do like end position equals start position equals end position, then the value of one of them is just going to get overwritten. So we want to have a temporary value to store our end position. So we're going to do var temp end equals end position. Okay. So then now we want to set our end position to our start position. Oops. Position. There we go. And then after that, since we already have temp end stored and it didn't just get overwritten by start position, we can now set start position to temp end. So this just switches to the two values, essentially. All right. Now we want to update our velocity. So we're going to do func update underscore velocity. Yeah, and then parentheses, colon. So now we want, this is not going to be done the exact same way as we would for a player because we're not asking for like an input vector. It's just telling it go up, go down. So we want to do var move direction. So this is going to be a local variable equals end position equals, or not equals, minus position. Here, let me make this bigger. There you go. So this essentially just gets the direction that we want to be moving based on our end position and our position. All right. Now we want to check if the move direction is smaller than the limit. So this basically asks if we're almost at our point of switching directions, not at the point, if we're almost at the point, which is 0.5, we want to set our position to our end position. So this just tells it to override the position with the end position. Yeah. And then we want to change direction. So we want to call this function to change the direction that we're going. And then lastly, outside of this if statement, So make sure you fix your indentation so this the next what we're gonna add next does not get called in our if statement. We want to do velocity equals move underscore direction dot normalize. We want to make sure we normalize this so again we don't have that issue of like diagonal movement moving faster times speed. All right. Does everyone have this? You all good? No? All right. Now we want to call this function in our physics process because again, this is just its own function. It's not being called every frame yet. So now we want to do add physics process. So physics. Like I said, you can see that it's highlighted. You can press enter and it automatically puts it. So in that function, we want to call update velocity. Why can't I spell? There we go. We're going to call that, make sure you put the parentheses. And then we want to call move and slide because like I said, without the move and slide function, the character just won't move because it's not the movement code is not being processed by the character body. All right. Does everyone have all this? Okay. So now we're going to go to our world scene. Let me show everything. There we go. So now we're in our world scene. I keep forgetting I have this. Now we want to put our slime in the world. So like we did with the player, we just get it from the file system, drag it in, and then it's in the default spot. We want to move this, not the player. We want to move the slime. Here, let me change the order. So you want to move the slime to a different location, just so the slime doesn't spawn on top of the character. And then one more step before we can just play the game. As you can see, the endpoint right here says assign. So what this is essentially doing is it's asking for a node in our node tree to be set to the endpoint. So as a child of slime, want to click add child node. It's kind of off the screen. And we want to make this a marker 2D. Does everyone see that? Okay. Like press enter, just set it. So then now we have a marker 2D as the child of slime. And then we could just move this to wherever we want the slime to have its endpoint at. Make sure you just drag the marker 2D, not the slime. Everyone got that? Okay. So last thing we need to do is we need to set the endpoint to this marker. So we're going to click assign. It's going to give us our node tree. So we just want to click marker 2D and see it says allowed. So we can press OK. So then now this slime will move towards the marker 2D. And then once it reaches near almost to that, it'll move back. So let me show you. Oh, what happened? Let's see. What did I do? Oh, my bad. So in move direction, you want to actually have this to dot length. I forgot that. You want to put dot length parentheses. Everyone got that? That is my bad. Let me run this again. So as you can see, the slime is now moving. All right. Kind of close on time, so I won't implement the animations into the code. It's just gonna have to move back and forth. But that's something that you can look into, or I can also just post the rest of the code a little later. All right. So we want to do a quick signal to kind of have the enemy harm the player. So what we're gonna do is we want to add something called an area 2D. So an area 2D is essentially it's like a character body 2D. It can read physics, can read collision, but it doesn't actually stop character bodies from like moving into it. And what was the other thing? It also can't move. Or can it move? I think it can't move. Anyway, that's beside the point. So we want to go back to our slime. Back to our slime like scene. And then we want to add a child. And we want to call this area 2D. All right. And then You could rename it to like something called Hertz radius. You could also call it hitbox, hurtbox. I personally don't know the difference and whatever. And then now, since we have this area 2D, it doesn't actually have collision because, like the character body 2D, it'll give an error saying that there's no collision shape 2D. So you need a collision shape 2D under this as a child in order for it to work. So we're going to do collision shape 2D. All right. And then now we want to add a shape to this. So we're going to press the empty again, circle shape 2D, radius is 15. Or no, not 15, it's 20. If it's the same, it can have some like weird errors. So just make sure that your hurt radius is a little bigger. I just didn't want to make it too big because you don't want to be like very far from the slime and you still get hurt. That's a little annoying. Everyone have all that? All right. So now we're going to make this actually work. So we're going to go to our node right here. And instead of groups, we want to be in signals. So what signals are essentially just kind of a node broadcasting that something happened and other nodes can pick up that broadcast and essentially say, I'm going to do something with that signal. So we want to click our area 2D. We want to make sure we have that selected. And then we want to click body entered. So this is actually going to say, has something like a character body or a rigid body entered my collision shape? So we're going to click that. We're going to right click it. Does everyone see this? Okay, we're going to press connect. And then we want to make sure that this is being connected in the correct script. So we want to make sure we just have slime connected. Selected. I'll have slime selected. And we're going to change the name. We'll just leave it as is. And then we're going to press connect. So it's going to be down here. Does everyone have this in their slime script? All right. So in this function, we want to check that this body is our player. So, okay. We want to put if body double equals player. Now we don't have player set yet, so it's going to give you an error. We'll fix that in a second. But we need to make this. 1 second. Okay. First, let me go back to the front because I forgot to put a variable. So we want to do var player. I'm just going to leave it as is. You could do like colon character body 2D, but it doesn't matter. I just wanted to show it. So we're going to do var player. And then we also want to make a signal. So we want to do signal attack underscore player. So this is essentially just making it like a custom signal. So it's not like any of these. It's one that we create ourselves and that we can call under our own conditions. So we want to, 1 second. Yeah, okay. So we want to have our player set. So we're going to do in ready player equals get underscore tree. So we're getting our scene tree, everything in the scene tree, dot get first node in group. So get first node in group. You could do like get all nodes in group and then select the first, like, what's it called? Like square bracket 0. But this is just a nice thing that Godot has to get the first node in the group for situations like this, where we have like a group with just one thing in it. All right, so now we have player set. We're going to scroll down. Wait, no, not yet. We're going to, after that, we're going to put player dot attack enemy. Wait, attack enemy. No, never mind. We're not going to use this yet. We might not get to this, so I'm just going to delete that. Okay, so we're just going to have that. We're just going to have that. Okay. So now we're going to go back to the bottom where we have this error. All right, so we're going to do if body double equals player. We're going to emit underscore signal quotes attack player. So yes. So this essentially just gets this signal and emits it for any node to hear. What is this? Oh my goodness, I forgot to do this. Okay. Sorry, I keep flip-flopping. We want to go back to ready and we want to make sure that we put player in quotation marks here. That's my bad. Does everyone have all this? Is everything good? Okay. So this won't actually do anything yet because the player doesn't have a way to receive this message from the slime. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to player. 1 second. Okay. So we want to make it so this player, go to script. We want to make it so this player is able to receive messages from the enemy. So we want to add a ready function. So we're going to do func _ ready, and then we just enter to input it automatically. So in here, we want to get everything in our enemy group, which I forgot to do, so we'll fix in a second. We want to get every node in our enemy group and connect that signal. Because in order for a signal to work, it actually has to be connected to the node that it's receiving from. It's a little confusing, but it kind of takes practice to really understand. So we're going to quickly go back to our slime. We're going to select our character body. We're going to press groups. I'm going to add a new group. And we want to call it enemy. And make it global so that any node can reference this. Click OK. So now automatically our slime is automatically part of the enemy group. So even if we add like a bunch of different slimes, they'll all be put in the enemy group automatically. So back to our player. We're all good there. Back to our player script. In the ready function, we want to get every enemy that's in this group and connect it. So connect it to the player so that the player can receive damage. So we're going to do we're going to add a for loop, or enhanced for loop, for enemy, in, get, tree. This is important because you need to get the tree in order to reference all the groups. Dot, get, _ nodes, in, group. So this is going to return an array of all the nodes in that group. And let's make sure that we actually put the group name. Let's put enemy. So this is going to run for every single enemy in this group. All right. So then now we want to connect this. So we're going to do enemy. So this is going to reference that enemy. Dot attack player, which if you remember, that's the name of the signal that we created. Dot connect. So this is a method that connects it. And then in this parentheses, we're going to put the name of a function that we're about to add, which will run every time this signal is heard from the enemy. So we're going to put attacked. We'll make this in a second, which is actually right now. So it'll give an error, but we'll resolve that in a second. But first are you guys up to speed? So everything good? All right. So now at the bottom, we're going to put func attacked parentheses colon. This doesn't need a parameter. And then very simply, we're just going to put health equals clamp health -1. So this is so the clamp function is responsible for making sure that the health value doesn't go below 0 or over the max health. So we're going to do max health -1. So that's the operation that we're doing on health. 0, that's the minimum, and 3. All right. Now, lastly, we want to do something if our health is below 0, so essentially just dying. So in our physics process, or actually, I'm going to do some process just because it doesn't really have anything to do with physics, so there's not really a point to putting it in physics process. We're going to do func _ process. We just click enter to autocomplete. And then we want to check if our health is below 1, not below 0, because remember that this operation is not inclusive. So if it's below 1, we want to get tree.quit. So this just closes the game if you die. If you expand on this, you can add like a game over screen, or you could like have yourself respawn. But for now, we're just gonna quit the game. So let's test it. Okay. So if we move around, and let's get close to the enemy 3 times. So that's 1, 2, 3. See? Oh, the game will close. So we've essentially just made a very basic enemy. Now, I don't know if we're going to have time to do an attack because that will take a minute. But we can try. Okay. We're going to kind of skip the animation for now. Let's just trust that we're attacking. So what we're going to do is we're going to add another area 2D to our player. So we're essentially kind of doing the inverse of what we did for the enemy. So we want to add a new child. We're going to make this area 2D. And we're going to call it attack radius. We're going to do plus again. Collision shape 2D. And then we're going to go 2D real quick. We're going to press shape empty. Circle shape. And then we're going to set our radius to like 40. So this gives us a pretty wide range to attack. You can edit this. You could also add some additional code to like make it so that you can't attack like behind yourself, but that's kind of beyond what we're doing right now. So we're going to go back to our player script. Does everyone got that? All right. So now we're going to add a signal to our player. So like we did with the enemy. So we're going to do signal attack _ enemy. So now that we have this signal, we want to call it in under the right conditions. So first, let's make sure that we add another variable called var is _ attacking. I want to make this a Boolean, not just bool, equals false. Has everyone got that? All right, so this is going to make sure that we can't attack like right after each frame. Or, okay, we might not actually need this since we're not doing the animation. But if you were using the animation, you would need this. Okay, so we're just going to do something very simple. Oh, we don't have, okay. First, we want to make sure that we actually have an action so that we can attack. So we're going to go to project settings, and back to our input map. So now we want to add an input map animation or action to our for our attacking. So we're going to type attack in the little add new action tab. We're going to press enter. And then we're going to set an event, keyboard event to it. I'm just going to put like mouse 1. Everyone got that? All right, let me click close. So now we can listen from the keyboard if we're going to attack. So we're just going to do it very simply. We're just going to do if input dot is action just pressed. We're going to do attack in the quotation marks, colon. And then we're going to do emit _ signal dot or quotation mark attack enemy. Everyone got that? All right. What's next? All right. So now we want to make it so the enemy can receive this signal. So we're going to go to our slime script specifically, and we want to essentially do the same thing. We want to connect it to the player so that we can read that signal from the player. Luckily, since there's only one player, we don't need to do like a for loop. So we could just do player dot attack _ enemy dot connect parentheses attacked. Am I missing something? Oh yeah, we don't have attacked yet. So everyone got that? All right, so now we need to add our attacked function like we had for the player. So we're going to do func attacked parentheses colon. And then essentially we just want to do the same thing as a player. We want to do we have a health variable? We don't. Okay, let's add a health variable first. So we want to do var health colon int equals 3. Make sure you have that, or else you won't have health. So let's go back to the bottom. And then we just want to do the same, literally the same thing as a player. So we just want to do health equals clamp. What was it? Health minus 1. Comma. I forgot what comma was called. 0, 3. So this is basically the same thing. Just checking if we're not below 0 and we're not above 3 before we do this operation. Everyone got that? And then lastly, we want to go to we want to add a process function. So we're going to do func underscore process. You can autocomplete that. And then we want to check if our health is less than 1. Instead of quitting the game, we want to delete this enemy. So what we're going to do is we're just going to type q underscore free parentheses. So this function essentially just deletes this node from the scene tree. You could have like a special animation, special death animation, or you could like kind of leave like almost like a body if you want. But for right now, we're just going to delete it from the world. Is everyone up to speed? We all got this. All right, let's run it. So we're going to go up to our enemy. We don't have animations, which is not the best, but might do. And if you press it 3 times, it's gone. It's dead. So this is basically just a very, very, very bare bones game. So I didn't make pre-made UI, but you could also add that. So if you want to see, like, if you're attacking the enemy, you can totally do that. You can add some UI, or you can use a tile map, which is something that I did pre-make. So I'm just going to show you very basic. I won't show you how to implement it because we're kind of short on time. But so first off, does anyone have any questions? Yeah, if the enemy is within that radius, it'll essentially get rid of it. You're right. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I forgot that. Interesting. Oh, I see the problem. So if we just click attack at all, it will what's it called? Attack the enemy. So this I was meant to connect. I was supposed to connect this to the animation, but we don't really have time to do that. So let's try to fix that. So we're going to go to our player, and then attack radius. We want to go to our node, go to signals, and we just want to do body entered again. So we're going to connect that to our player. Everyone got that? All right. So now we want to check. 1 second. I'm just thinking about something. Okay, no, sorry. We're not going to do this. There's a better way. Instead, we want to check. We want to go to our when we're checking if the attack animation was just pressed. So what we want to do instead is okay, hold on. First off, sorry, a lot of going back and forth. We want to make sure that we have a reference to our attack radius. So we're going to do at onReady var attack underscore radius equals $ attack radius. So now we have a reference to our attack radius. So with this, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to here where it says is action just press attacked. And we're going to type and attack radius dot get overlapping bodies and For now, we're just gonna do the first one. There's definitely a better way to do this because then that way we can't like attack multiple enemies at once. We're just gonna check the first one. We're gonna do dot is in group enemy. This is a very hacky solution. Like I literally just thought of this because I can't believe I forgot about checking the attack radius. That's my bad. But this should work. So it's gonna check. It's gonna check in the attack radius. Look for the overlapping bodies. Get the first one, and check if it's in the enemy group. Does that make sense? Okay. Does everyone have that written down? Have that in the code? Okay, I assume so. So now if we check, give me a second. If we press, if we just press the mouse again, it won't just die automatically. But if we go close to it, interesting. There we go. I just missed it a couple of times. Or I died. Wait, no, I died. Never mind. Oh my goodness. Okay. This is what it is. This is, just finding mistakes and fixing them. So let's think. What is the problem? Okay, I see the problem. So we're actually going to get rid of this. We're going to get rid of this. Yeah. So we just want to have attacked. Instead, we want to, on every single body, we want to check if it's an enemy. So we're going to do for enemy in attack underscore radius dot get overlapping bodies. So we're checking each body in that overlapping radius. We're going to check if enemy dot is in group. So we want to check if it's in enemies, importantly. We want to check within the enemy group. And then we're going to then emit the signal. Attack enemy. Okay, does that make sense? Because now it's checking each enemy. Or each body, sorry. So now if we run it, so again, if we just press a bunch of times, it won't do anything. If we go close, there we go. Now it's gone. Now it works. All right, so that's a very, very basic bare bones. You can attack the enemy, and the enemy can attack you. So that's an MVP right there. Does anyone have any more questions? Yes? Oh, I thought you were gonna say something. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, there you have it. I don't have any more slides, but that's it. Well, thank you. Thank you for showing up. I hope you learned something today.